before we get started, I'm just going to show you a quick video. This person is named John Campion. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. He is talking to AMC Theaters employees, and he's telling them why what they do matters.
Second fact that I want us to look at is this, is that what you do matters. You know, yesterday you guys heard someone tell you something that I agree with 100%, that you should do work that matters, and I agree. But I'm here to tell you that you are doing work that matters. You know, we have a little studio at the AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California, and Jess Zarillo is the GM there. And every once in a while, I'll walk into the theater and I'll see Jeff, you know, running back and forth like a little chicken with his head cut off, you know, putting out fires, getting things done, taking care of business, making one of the best movie theaters in the country run. But sometimes I sit back and I don't know if he really even understands how much he is actually doing. Because after I see him, I'll turn to my right, and I'll see a couple in their 40s walking into the theater, and you can just tell by looking at their faces, they probably haven't had an evening to themselves away from their family in months. And the look of happiness and joy and relaxation on their faces, that they as a couple now get to get out and enjoy a shared experience together, just going to the movies. I look over to my left and I see a mom coming into the theater with her little 5 or 6-year-old son and 2 of his little friends, and seeing the pure joy and happiness on that kid's face, the pride he has that he's there with his mom, and his mom has brought him and his friends, and the look on the mother's face, besides, you know, being completely exasperated trying to keep things under control, that excitement that she has is she's getting to share this moment with her son. I see it, countless numbers of teenagers coming to the theaters, you know, young men, young women, probably on their first date, wondering how this is all going to go. And we see this entire plethora of experiences. And then there's mine. My earliest childhood memory is my mom taking me, this is no lie, my mom taking me to see Star Wars. It is the most pivotal, the most formative experience I have ever had in my life. It started the formations of a lifelong bond that I had with my mom, and all the great experiences that we had afterwards that came after it. All from that one experience. All made possible because movies matter. And made possible because the gatekeepers and architects of these movie-going experiences that we all get to share is done by you. So when I see Jeff running around the Burbank 16, I don't know if he fully gets that not only is he taking care of business and making things happen and making everything run smoothly, he's actually architecting and facilitating experiences that people are going to take away. Experiences that will maybe be the best experience of their day, maybe the best experience of their week, maybe the best experience of the year, or maybe in some cases like mine, will be an experience that proves very formative for the entire rest of their lives. Movies matter. What you guys do matters. And as you talk about all this other stuff, as you get bogged down in issues of human resources and balancing books and working out these spreadsheets, remember this. Everything that you are doing, while great for business, you are contributing to the human experience. You are contributing to people having those moments, those magic, intimate times with other people that they get to share, that none is made possible without your work and what you guys do. So on behalf of myself and my fellow film fans all over the world, I just want to say thank you. What you do matters.
Okay, so that was John Campion. Can you put the first one in? The second one. Okay, so that was John Campia, and he's actually one of my idols. He calls himself an online film pundit, and he was the creator of AMC Movie Talk, and they talk about movies every day and stuff like that. And what he was saying was that movie theater experiences really matter, and I think that really explains to you why I chose this topic, because not only do I love movies, but I love the movie viewing experience so much, and because of that, I wanted to do this on my project. And this is actually me with John Campia. I had the pleasure of meeting him at a comic book convention last year, which was really awesome. He's like one of the greatest people online at all. Okay, so let's get started. Next slide. So, once again, my name is Isaiah Leone, and my topic is small movie theater management, or, you know, independent movie theaters, whatever, just, you know, smaller family-owned theaters. And my essential question is, how can an independent movie theater manager preserve the movie viewing experience while maintaining profitability? Now, let me just explain that just a little bit more. You know, bigger movie theaters like AMC or Edwards, you know, they are awesome. I love AMC theaters. Edwards is, I mean, not as good, but I love AMC. But they are pretty much all in this business for the money. I mean, you can tell that because they just play whatever movies. They put their popcorn really expensive, and they're just in it for the money. But independent movie theaters were founded on the idea of playing, more intellectual films and smaller drama movies that, more smarter people will enjoy. And because of that, nowadays, bigger, more expensive movies are making more money, and those independent movies aren't making as much money, and the independent movie theater industry is suffering because of that. So my essential question, is kind of, showing you or answering what can we do to make these independent movie theaters survive. All right, so before we actually get going, I want to talk to you about a few things. First of all, why I love movies so much. I loved movies ever since I was little, when I saw Star Wars for the very first time. My favorite is Empire Strikes Back. And since then, I got into, Back to the Future and Indiana Jones, and all these movies really, really helped me become a, film nerd that I am today. And then I got into more, drama, like more adult films, like V for Vendetta, or, Donnie Darko, The Shining. These are some of my favorite movies. And I love movies so much because of the stories that they tell. And I feel like movies are the ultimate form of storytelling because of all of the different art forms that they combine. All right, so a brief history of movie theaters. 1902, that was the first movie theater that opened. It was called the Electric Theater in Los Angeles. And before then, there were theaters around, but they mostly played, vaudeville or concerts or, theater plays, and then they would play movies on the side. But it wasn't until the Electric Theater opened in LA that movie theaters actually started to come out where they only played movies. Then, in 1905, the first Nickelodeon theater opened. And it was called a Nickelodeon theater because it only cost a nickel to get in. And it was like a 15-minute short film. It was really easy and awesome. And everybody amongst the middle class and lower class, they really enjoyed these movies and these theaters because of how cheap they were and how accessible they were. And then, in 1910, bigger modern-day theaters started to open, and Nickelodeon theaters started to kind of lose their attraction. But the reason that modern theaters are different from Nickelodeon theaters is because they play feature-length films. There's sometimes multiple screens in these theaters, and they have concession and candy and stuff like that. And now let's talk a little bit about blockbusters. In the 1970s, blockbusters were introduced to the world, and I talked a little bit before when I was explaining my EQ. Blockbusters are just the bigger, more expensive movies that make a lot of money at the box office, and they're called blockbusters because of how much people they attract. People literally line up around the block to watch these movies, and that's why they're called blockbusters. Now, this here is a famous picture from 1977, and that is the Chinese theater Star Wars opening day. I would have killed to be there. But yeah, look at all those people just wanting to see Star Wars. And that was actually last week, May 25th. That was the 39th anniversary. And the first blockbuster that came out was Jaws. Steven Spielberg directed Jaws. He's considered the creator of modern blockbusters. And because of these blockbusters, indie movies started to kind of like, they were kind of pushed aside, and they were kind of turned into indie movies. And they have micro budgets, like, not a lot of money are put into these movies, and independent movie theaters are suffering because of that. So that leads me into my, these are some other blockbusters. Jurassic Park, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark. These all made a lot of money, and Spielberg directed all of these because he is considered to be the creator of blockbusters, alongside George Lucas, who directed and created Star Wars, and also created Indiana Jones with Spielberg. So that leads me into my answer number one to my essential question, which I will state once more. How can an independent movie theater manager preserve the movie viewing experience while maintaining profitability? Now, the first answer to that is going to be show a mixture of smaller independent films and bigger blockbuster films. Now, if you want to be considered an independent movie theater, you're still going to want to be playing those independent movies. And but you're not going to make as much money. You're not going to survive if you just play, those independent movies, because blockbusters are making the money nowadays. So you're going to want to play kind of both of those. So I'm going to get into that right now. All right, so I got this answer from my mentorship, which my mentorship is at Lemley's Claremont 5. I've been working there for about like 10 months now. And this is my mentor. Her name is Cassie Grattan. She is the general manager at Lemley's Claremont 5. She is not only my mentor, but she's also my manager. She's my boss. and she's also my friend. She's a really great person, and we're always just talking about movies a lot. This here is Greg Lemley. He is the owner, CEO, president of Lemley Theaters. If it weren't for these two people up here, I would not be standing up here with so much excitement. I'd probably be standing up here talking about like teaching or whatever, because that's what my mom does. So I just want to thank both these people for helping me out with this project and allowing me to have so much fun with what I was doing this whole year. All right, so these are some other pictures from my mentorship. This is my one of my managers. His name is Izzy. His real name is Israel, but everyone calls him Izzy. And he is one of the managers there. He's been working at Lemley Theaters for years now. He used to work at the Pasadena one, and I interviewed him for my third interview, I think. And then, this is just a picture of me behind concession during one of those, lull periods at my theater. We only have 5 screens at Lemley's Claremont 5, so there's times where we're just kind of sitting there waiting for the movies to finish so we can go clean the theaters. And that is during one of those moments. I get kind of, antsy when these are happening. All right, so now we're going to start talking about who you're going to want to market these movies for, and who exactly is your audience when you're trying to think about which movies to play. So right here we just have a graph of the age groups that people go to the movies. Now you can see they're all pretty much the same except for this middle one right here, 25 to 39-year-olds. That's pretty much the go-to audience when you're thinking about what movies to play. And that can be kind of broad, so there's a lot of different 25 to 39-year-olds out there, so you can't really know exactly what they want until you actually look more into it. And another indication of which movies to play is the location of your theater and the target audience that you actually want to play movies for. For example, at my theater, Lemley's Claremont 5, we specialize in playing indie movies, so of course we're going to want to put our theater somewhere where there's a lot of people that would interest. So yeah, my audience. At Lemley's Claremont 5, we cater to 2 groups of Claremont. The older folks of Claremont, there are a lot of retired people in Claremont that love to just go to the movies every now and then on their free time. But we also cater to the college kids of Claremont, or the high school students. Claremont High is like 5 minutes away from my theater, so we're constantly getting high school students. And then the Claremont colleges are like right in that area too, along with maybe even Cal Poly Pomona, which is also in that area. So we cater to both groups. And this is Blanca right here. She's one of my coworkers, and she is putting up the movies for the week. Now, right here we have The Martian, which might attract the younger audiences, maybe the engineer majors or the physics majors that are interested in space exploration and stuff like that. Bridge of Spies, that was the Cold War thriller that was directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks. That might interest the older people who maybe maybe even lived through that Cold War period. I went to go see that with my dad, and he actually lived through that Cold War period, so he really enjoyed that movie. Another one is Spectre. Spectre might be interesting for both groups because, the first James Bond movie came out in the 60s, so maybe people grew up with James Bond and they want to watch the new one, and then maybe younger people want to watch it because it's an action movie, and young people love action movies. The last one is going to be Burnt. Bradley Cooper's, he was like a chef in a 5-star restaurant in Italy. This might attract the older audiences if they like, 5-star dining or whatever. So also, you're gonna want to actually talk to your customers and find out what they want to see. And you can do this very easily by just getting to know your customers very well by just talking to them. My mentor, Cassie, she knows her audience and her the people in Claremont very well. She knows exactly which movies they're going to want and what movies they're not going to like. And you can do this by, if I'm at concession and I'm just, chilling back there and people are coming out of the theater, I might ask them oh, did you enjoy the movie you just saw, or are you excited? What kind of movies are you excited for? And then I actually have a funny story. Sometimes I'll be cleaning theaters and these older folks, they're kind of confused when they're watching these bigger blockbuster movies. So I remember one time this old lady came out and then she was like, so who's that Kylo Ren fella? And then I had to explain to her who exactly Kylo Ren was, and I had a lot of fun with it. I almost got in trouble because I was talking to her for 30 minutes about Kylo Ren. And so yeah, that's kind of fun. You get to know your customers, you get to know what they like, you get to know what they don't like, and then you get to know how much money you're going to make, whether if they're going to like it or not. All right, so this is a picture or a graph right here. I'm not sorry, not a graph. This is a list of the top 10 films of 2015 based on box office taken. Right here we have number 1, which is Star Wars, made almost $1 billion worldwide. And these are all pretty much, the bigger blockbuster movies. These are the ones that make a lot of money. Things we talked about already, Martian is on there. That made a lot of money. So it was really good business for us because we actually played The Martian. We also played Spectre, which was number 10, made a lot of money. And all of these on here are pretty much considered blockbusters, except for maybe Inside Out, which might be considered to be more of a family movie. But it's Pixar, and it had a huge budget, so it made a lot of money. So it might be considered a blockbuster, too. And the last one I just want to talk about really quick is Minions. Minions is number 6. So it made $336 million worldwide on a budget of maybe around $90 million. So we're thinking, if we're taking into consideration marketing and the marketing budget and the theater cut, they probably made like $200 in pure profit. And if we can just go to the next slide really quick. Minions, this brings me to kind of a sad part in my presentation. Minions, while it made a lot of money and made good business for theaters, it wasn't considered to be a very good movie. And this right here is a picture of Rotten Tomatoes. Now, Rotten Tomatoes brings together all of the film critics and what they thought about the movie. So it received 55%, which means that only 55% of the critics enjoyed the movie, and the other 45% thought it was not a very good movie. So you can see it's kind of like a divisive movie. Not a lot of people liked it. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. And I myself didn't watch the movie because the trailers looked not very good. I liked the Despicable Me movies, but I didn't really think that the Minions should have been a main character. Anyways, so yeah, these movies make lots of money, like Transformers and stuff like that, but they're not always considered the best movies. And when you're thinking about, what kind of movie theater you want to present to people, you're going to want to have that reputation that you actually show good movies. You don't want to show Minions, which is going to leave your customers with a sour face on, sour look on their face when they're walking out of the theater, like, oh, that wasn't a very good movie. But if they leave the theater with a happy face on, like, man, that movie was awesome, I want to come back next week to watch another movie, then you're going to get that repeat business. You're going to get that audience to build it up. All right, so what movies are actually good? This right here is the top 10 films of 2015. Not based on box office, but based on the Rotten Tomatoes scores. The critics, did they like the movie? And they are smarter than a lot of people give them credit for. They know all the best movies of the year, and they give them scores based on whether they were good or whether they were not good. Mad Max was considered to be the best movie of last year from Rotten Tomatoes, and that got 97% with like 350 reviews. Some other films on here were Star Wars, which was number 5. The Martian, again, really good movie, made some money. So great business for indie theaters who played The Martian, and good, give them a good reputation, leaving the customers with a happy smile on their face when they walked out. Some other movies on here that you might not even have heard of, which, Room, which was a really awesome movie that not a lot of people saw, but was a really great movie, and everybody who came to see it at our theater really, really loved it, and they left with a smile on their face. Another one was Selma, which was like a Martin Luther King Jr. movie. Shaun the Sheep. I didn't know, you guys probably didn't even know Shaun the Sheep was out, but yeah, they made a movie, and it was actually pretty good. And then the last one I want to talk about is Spotlight. Who here has seen Spotlight? Okay, so like 2 people. Spotlight was a movie that won Best Picture at the Oscars. Now what that means is that a lot of really smart people thought this was the best movie of 2015. And the sad thing about that is that it didn't really make a lot of money. It's number 62 on Box Office Mojo's 2015 domestic gross list, which compared to Minions number 6 is kind of sad. But, everybody... So my answer to my essential question, which I will state once again, how can an independent movie theater manager preserve the movie viewing experience while maintaining profitability? So the second answer is going to be create an environment that can make your customers feel comfortable. All right, next. So one thing you can do is comfortable seats. But not too comfortable. You don't want those, young people getting a little bit too frisky. Just regular recliners, leather recliners at the most, because you just want people to be comfortable while they're watching the movie. You don't want your customers to be uncomfortable when they're sitting in these seats, because if they're not comfortable, then they're not going to be able to enjoy the movie. They're not going to be able to put their full attention into the film that they're watching. So, recliners, at the most, if you don't have the budget for recliners, just, regular chairs that are somewhat comfortable is fine. And affordable and attractive concession options. This is a huge one. AMC theaters and Edwards, they jack up their concession prices like really high just because, and the reason for this is because movie theaters make a lot of their money from concessions. But it's gotten to the point where, some movie theaters are just making too much money. This popcorn is like too much money, and it's getting ridiculous. And the reason you want your customers to be actually buying concession, not only because you make a lot of money from this, but because also you want your customers to be happy and comfortable in that movie theater. And nobody's happy when they're hungry. If you go and get a concession and you get some candy and some popcorn, you're going to be happy. You're going to be put in a certain mood, and that's going to help you enjoy the film better. You want people to buy your food so you can also make money also. And the next one is strict enforcement of rules. This is also a huge one that the other theaters like Edwards don't really take into consideration as much. They have like a dancing guy on the screen. Put your phones away, everybody. But that doesn't seem to work very well, because sometimes you go to these movie theaters and people are sitting there and they're Snapchatting, and they're on their phone, they're texting, and they're talking to each other, and they take off their shoes sometimes. It's ridiculous. Those people really annoy me. And but there's different ways that you can make these theaters do those things better. ArcLight does this very well. ArcLight is a theater chain, closer to Hollywood, and what they do is that before every movie starts, they take out a guy like me, a person that just works at a movie theater, and he goes outside, or she goes outside to the movie, and she says, please put away your phones, please be respectful to each other, and enjoy the movie, and just be quiet. And that goes a long way when you actually have a person there telling you to be respectful, rather than just a dancing person on the screen telling you to put away your phones. And another way you can enforce that is before you actually leave the theater, just stay in the back, supervising the audience, making sure that everyone is being respectful, making sure that everyone's phones are away, and just for the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then just go about your day, and encourage people to actually snitch, okay? Tell them to come outside and tell you this guy's on his phone. Please kick him out, because nobody's gonna enjoy the movie if this guy's gonna be on his phone the whole time. I remember my Greg Lemley. He told me one time that his grandfather, his father Bob Lemley, actually was sitting in a movie theater, just watching a movie for himself. He was on an off day, and this guy came inside to the theater, and he was being really disrespectful, and he was talking really loud, and Bob Lemley was like, "Hey man, can you please be quiet? People are trying to enjoy the movie." And he was like, "No man, I can do whatever I want. This is America," or whatever, And Bob Lemley, he owns the theater. He's like, "Yo, get out. This is my theater. You're not ever allowed here ever again." And that's kind of an example of telling the people who work at a theater to be respectful and keep the environment a happy place. Another one is reserved seating. Now, reserved seating is very, very good if you're talking about bigger blockbuster movies. This isn't going to be very effective if you just have smaller independent movies, because there's usually not a lot of people in these theaters, so you can just pretty much sit wherever. But when you are talking about bigger blockbuster movies, you're going to want to have reserved seating so that people aren't waiting in line for 3 hours in advance or days in advance. This right here is a picture of Star Wars when Star Wars was coming out, and people were lining up weeks in advance for Star Wars just to watch this movie. And some people thought that this was fun because you can just sit in line and wait with a bunch of Star Wars nerds. But for me, I don't really like people that much, so I would rather just have reserved seating and then go in and enjoy the movie once it starts. And this is really awesome because I can just enjoy my day and then just go to the theater and watch Star Wars. And but yeah, this isn't going to be effective if you're just having an indie movie, because there's not going to be a lot of people waiting in line or anticipating these movies as much. All right, so can you go back really quick? Oh, okay. Sorry. So yeah, we're gonna do my next activity now. I'm sorry, I screwed up. I don't have an activity for this one, but what I did to make you guys feel comfortable is that I let you guys sit wherever you want. I let you sit with your friends, and then I gave you snacks like water and popcorn, and that kind of made you guys feel as social with each other, and then that that feeling of antisocialness is going to rub off on the customer, and the customer is going to feel like they're not being treated very well. So let me talk a little bit more about the people who I work with, my Lemley people. We're all very good with each other, and I thank Cassie Grattan, my mentor, for doing this because she really brought together a nice group of people who really enjoy each other's company. They really, actively engage with each other, and we all have very similar interests. We all love talking about movies. We all love talking about TV shows and video games and stuff like that. And that's a very good thing because you want your employees to have good relationships with each other. And everyone is always in a good mood for the most part, even if they're having a bad day. They might come into the theater and they might not be in a good mood. They might not be in a bad mood anymore because everybody at the theater is their friend, and they might be put in a better mood. And the perks keep everybody happy at my theater. We get free movies, we get free popcorn and stuff like that. Sometimes we get private screenings from the managers. They put movies on for us, just the employees. And that keeps everybody really happy and really excited to go to work every day. So yeah, I said I was going to talk about this a little bit more, but your employees need to actually love movies, because if you're working at a theater, you're going to want to be able to communicate with the customers very well, talking about what movies we're playing. If you're working in the box office and you're selling tickets, you're going to want your customers, if they're asking questions like, oh, what movie should I watch? You need to know which movies you're playing and what they're all about so you can help the customer decide which movie they want to watch. And not only that, but you want your customers to actually enjoy the place that they're working at. You want them to like movies so that they can come to work with a smile on their face, actually enjoying to be a part of that movie viewing experience. And yes, your employees should be proud to work there. Now, the place that I work at, Lemley Theaters, I'm very proud to be working at Lemley Theaters. I think they're one of the best movie theaters in the Los Angeles area because of the environment that they provide and the movies that they play. And they're still a family-operated movie theater, so I really enjoy being a part of that. Now, this is a quote from Simon Sinek: "Customers will never love a company until the employees love it first." Now, he's an expert on business stuff. He does TED Talks all the time. And the reason that I put that up there is because employees, if they don't like the company that they're working at, then they're not going to enjoy being at work every day. They're gonna hate it, and they're gonna hate the company, and it's just going to be a mess. So you want your customers or your employees to be happy where they're at, and you can do this by a number of ways. Just keeping a friendly, happy environment, being friendly with your employees, keeping them nice and happy, and that will make them be more passionate about what they're doing. All right, so how can a manager keep their employees happy? Now, this is a picture of me. That's what I wear to work every day. That's my Lemley shirt, and then that's my cat, Kitty. So how can you keep your employees happy? One thing you can do is just simple uniforms. Now, you may think that this is not a very thing, or might not be very effective, but it really is, because you can, if at my work, we have just a shirt. It's just a Lemley shirt, and then we can put a sweater over it. We can put an undershirt if we're getting cold. And this goes a long way because it keeps your employees comfortable. They're not going to be cold or hot all the time. They're going to be able to change up how they are. And then not only that, but it will make your customers feel like you're at an independent movie theater rather than a part of a larger organization. If you're wearing like this big old giant three-piece uniform, then your customers might feel like, oh, this is just a part of a larger organization. This isn't a family-owned independent theater. And so yeah, that goes a long way. Another thing you can do is bonding. Managers are constantly having that reputation that they're mean and they're very disciplinary and everything. But at a movie theater, you want to keep that relationship with your employees, because you want them to be comfortable with you in case they have a question or in case they're concerned about something. Your employees need to be very compatible with you. And you might think this is scary because managers need to have that business relationship with their employees so that if they screw up, you can fire them. Well, if you're a good manager, then you'll just fire your friends if they're being stupid. I know my mentor Cassie, she fires people who are, she's very friendly with, but if they're not good employees, she'll just fire them because she's a good manager. And another thing that we do at my theater is to play music in the lobby, and everybody loves the music. Everybody loves music. It keeps them happy. We play oldies sometimes. Other times we play KSBC Claremont Radio, which one of my coworkers works at. Her name is Dia, and every Sunday she's on the radio. So sometimes we'll play her station, and then that keeps the employees happy and engaging with each other. All right, so this is my second activity. Now just open up the folders once more, and then it's pretty